Hi, my name is Alasia Harrison, and this is my interpersonal assignment on a section in Chapter 3. Today, I will be talking about how cultural values and norms shape communication. It isn't easy defining culture. I suppose an easy and comprehensive definition is the language, values, belief, traditions, and customs people share and learn. When thinking of culture, you might think of nationalities, but even within a society, there are differences called co-culture. Co-culture is a perception of membership in a group that is part of an encompassing culture. Members of co-cultures often develop unique patterns of communication. This is called intergroup communication, which is the interaction between members of co-cultures. There are several other subtle yet vitally important factors that shape members of a culture. Some cultures value the individual more than the group, whereas others place a greater emphasis on the group. Individualism culture is a culture in which members focus on the value and welfare of individual members as opposed to a concern for the group as a whole. Collectivistic culture is a culture in which members focus on the welfare of the group as a whole rather than a concern by individuals for their own success. The difference between individualism and collectivism show up in everyday interaction. Stella Toomey and communication researchers suggest that individualistic Western culture, where there is a strong I orientation, the low context norm of speaking is directly honored, whereas in collectivistic cultures, where the main desire is to build connection between self and others, high context indirect approaches that maintain harmony are considered more desirable. The specific definition of low context culture is a culture that uses language primarily to express thoughts, feelings, and ideas as directly as possible. A high context culture is a culture that relies heavily on subtle, often nonverbal cues to maintain social harmony. Uncertainty may be universal, but cultures have different ways of coping with an unpredictable future. The term uncertainty avoidance is used to reflect the degree to which members of a culture feel threatened by ambiguous situations and how much they try to avoid them. A society could have low and high uncertainty avoidance. People who live in high uncertainty avoidance societies, foreign or even people who don't fit the norm, are considered dangerous. Therefore, there are a lot of rules and regulations to keep foreigners out. By contrast, people who live in cultures that are less threatened by the new and unexpected are more likely to tolerate and welcome others. I feel as if this is related to my next topic, power distance, because I would think that societies with low uncertainty would have a high power distance. Power distance refers to the extent of the gap between social groups who possess resources and influence those who don't. Cultures with low power distance believe in minimizing the difference between various social classes. For example, rich and poor groups and educated and uneducated groups accept each other and see each other as good no matter their station in life. I personally really like this ideology because I feel like it is important for people to accept others that are different from me. I'm glad to say that I have this mindset when communicating with others from different cultures or social classes. Moving forward, in many Western countries, based on the culture, talking is something that is desired, whereas silence is associated with anxiety, shyness, or lack of interest. In contrast, in Asian cultures, silence is actually preferred. They believe that remaining quiet is a proper state when there is nothing to be said, and a talkative person is seen as a show-off or unauthentic. Many cultures fall onto a spectrum between competitive and cooperative. Gender roles in cooperative cultures are less extreme and more equal. Cultural orientation also greatly influences how people communicate with one another. Male leaders in competitive cultures tend to focus on employee achievements rather than personal qualities and even their relationships. From what I can remember about the videos we watched in class, I can take away that using the aspects talked about before would certainly help with relationships. Communication is very important in relationships, so to have a low context one would seem the most effective. Two people who might come together may have different cultures, so it will also be important to have low power distance and a cooperative culture together, so it is ensured that they respect each other and treat each other as equals to make the relationship work. The book, Communication as Culture, Revised Edition Essays on Media and Society, consists of essays on how culture can influence communication in the media. I read the introduction and it didn't include too much information that was in the book, but it was really interesting to get a glimpse on culture and communication in media. The Communicating Across Cultures article included a great portion of information that was in the book. It also included a lot of information about culture that was not in the book, such as sequential versus synchronic cultures, which in sequential cultures like North American English, German, Swedish, and Dutch, business people give full attention to one agenda item after another, and in synchronic cultures, including South America, South Europe, and Asia, the flow of time is viewed as sort of a circle with past, present, and future all interrelated. This viewpoint influences how organizations in those cultures approach deadlines, strategic thinking, investments, developing talents from within, and the concept of long-term planning. I personally haven't had any significant experiences with culture and communication, but I grew up in Lakewood, California, which consists of many different types of people and cultures flowing in from these surrounding cities. I actually took a Spanish class throughout middle and high school for about 5 years, so I suppose that could be an experience with culture and learning the norms and communication of the Spanish language.